Silver Creek School Corporation, August 31st, 2021 at 6 o'clock. Call to order. I will do the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation with Miss Christy Franklin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, I pray for our community tonight. I ask that you provide us guidance and grace as we continue to make decisions and face challenges with running our school district. Let your Son, Jesus Christ, be our example. Let us be respectful, kind, and always be united versus divided. Remind us to count our blessings, not our problems, and to live in gratitude. Thank you for our health. Thank you for our teachers and our staff and our students and our community. It's in your Son's name that we pray. Amen.
At this time, we'll have roll call. Virtual, we actually have Mr. Roundtree.
Present.
Ms. Franklin.
Here.
Ms. Overberg.
Present.
And I am present. We have a quorum. At this time, we ask if there's any emergency additions, revisions to the agenda.
I do have an emergency addition under consent agenda number 8, C personnel, numbers 2 through 4. That is the only addition I have, and I have no revisions.
Does the board have any?
So I'm going to make the motion. It's not on our agenda tonight. We do have a policy on public speaking, but what that policy states is that there has to be a listed topic for what anybody would want to speak about tonight. And what is not on the agenda tonight is discussions with regards to anything COVID related, safety plan opening, or anything like that. So I'm going to make a motion at this time to allow anybody that would like to speak for community input tonight to be able to have that listed. We'll discuss that under a discussion item.
Do we have a second? I'll second. And then because we have a virtual board member, we do have to do individual voting. So all those in favor, Ms. Ms. Overberg?
I think he has to be seen to be able to vote.
You weren't.
He is.
The other day you voted on stuff and you were virtual.
What? People couldn't see me?
No.
Oh,
He's up there.
we can talk about it later.
So.
What's your vote?
You voting?
I think you have to call our names, right?
I did. I said Ms. Overberg.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So yes or nay? Or
Nay.
Nay.
Yes.
Mr. Roundtree?
Yay.
And I'll make a yay. That's 3-1 to have the motion move, to have discussion item of listening to the COVID and back to school plan. Mr. Briggs.
Okay, all I have is the consent agenda that's been presented to you with the emergency additions this evening. Please note on the Part E, Other, under the Certified Staff Evaluation Handbook, I have provided you a list of teacher names that have been added who gave thought and input into the Teacher Evaluation Handbook. That is on the back page of your packet I gave you here this afternoon. Other than that, there are no changes to the consent agenda. And let me back up. I guess I want to make some announcements that are here on the agenda. We have an executive board meeting this Thursday, September 2nd, here at the middle school. And then we have 2 regular board meetings currently scheduled, September 20th. That'll take place at the Silver Creek Primary School, and October 18th, also at Silver Creek Primary School. And that is it. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take public input on anybody would like to speak. We do actually have a 3-minute timetable. Anybody who is here, if they are any disruptive, our Officer Sanchez is here and can be removed. So at this time, we'll have the person whose name is on the public input, Ms. Sarah Barlow.
I would.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here today because at the last meeting, well, first of all, my daughter is in 2nd grade and I wish for her to be in school. And so instead of, I wanted to take a proactive role and seek out a solution or see if I could find something that was maybe different than what I was hearing. The last board meeting, I heard you all say that you tried to modify the quarantine guidelines and the Clark County Health Department told you that was not possible, that it's the law. I called the Indiana Department of Health after that meeting, and they informed me that it was a recommendation and a guideline. They encouraged me to call the Clark County Health Department to get to the bottom of it. I called the Clark County Health Department. They told me that they were the enforcers of the law from the Indiana Department of Health. So I called the Indiana Department of Health back, spoke to another person, and they told me that it was a guideline and a recommendation, not a law. So I asked a lot of questions. They told me they were very limited. They couldn't explain it to me, that I needed to call the Office of Epidemiology. I did. Left a voicemail. They have not called back. So I started to think, I've heard of other schools not quarantining. I'll take a look for myself. I looked at about 180 to 190 school districts reopening plans that are approved by their local school boards. I found 53 that are not quarantining in Indiana to the guidelines that we've been told is law. Some allow antibody testing to be exempt from quarantine. Some are only quarantining at 3 feet, even though they're mask optional. Some are excluding people from quarantine with guidelines such as masking and temperature checks. Some are giving full parent choice. Some are only quarantining when family members are the ones that have have COVID-19. And some are just don't include quarantine at all in their reopening plan. I have copies of about 50 of them, or about 45, 50 of them. Something else to note is that 74% were mask optional of the plans I looked at, 20% were mask mandates, and 6% had a scale much like us. I don't feel that masking is the solution to getting us back in the classroom, because we can look at our friends at Greater Clark, and next week they're on e-learning, and they've been masked for weeks. I think that it's time to look at our quarantine guidelines and to look a little further than Clark County Health Department. No disrespect to them. I think that they think they're following the rules, and maybe they are. But I have a hard time believing that 53 school districts in the state of Indiana have plans that are approved by their local health departments that break the law. I've printed these plans. I also have excerpts for you all copied. I have a list of the schools that I found, and I would be happy to share that with you. I also have 2 studies that I found. One is peer-reviewed right here from the University of Louisville that shows that masking is not changing the outcomes of contracting COVID. I also have another one that says that a 3-ply cloth mask worn tightly on one's face has the efficacy of approximately 9.8%. I think there's other factors to weigh, and most often, as my husband says, who's an anesthesiologist, there's a risk and there's a benefit. Which outweighs? In this case, I believe that masks are more of a risk for elementary students. Middle and high, I think, is another beast, and that's not where my argument is, but in elementary students, I taught for 10 years, they're nasty. They chew on them, they put them on desks, they're dirty, and those are going directly on our kids' faces. At 9.8% efficacy rate, I don't believe that the benefit outweighs the risk. Like I said, I would be happy to hand these plans to you all. They have guidelines, they have rules, they have things written out in a lot of different ways, but it would keep more kids in the classroom. Thank you.
Ms. Barlow, if you'd like, you can bring those up here. We'll take those in and just, thanks for sharing those with us.
Does it have on there like how many of those?
And we'll give
schools were
those to
private
our
and
board
public?
president and allow him to review them.
Okay, thank you. Well, if not, I mean, I can go through them, so.
There's 6 copies. The schools are listed, and then here's the excerpts if you don't want to look through every single one.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Truly
input.
appreciate
Is there
that.
anybody else that wants to speak?
That's my next.
I think they walked in late, wasn't sure.
Anybody else wanted to public speak? Mr. Balmer?
Hello, Todd Balmer. I have 3 students at Silver Creek. One that's a senior, and I'm happy she's on her senior retreat, so kudos to our high school for making that possible. I was very worried that she might miss out on quite a bit her senior year. So 2 twins that are in 2nd grade with an awesome teacher by Miss Timmons. If I'm going to have this platform, the first thing I want to do is applaud our students out there. They are so resilient in everything that embodies what it means to be a dragon during this e-learning. I want to thank you all for doing your part. We know it's not easy. I want to thank our teachers and staff who I feel like are probably working 3 times as hard, trying to balance quarantine, e-learning, and in person. So they have been working extremely hard. I'm thankful for them. I want to thank our board and our central office for trying to make some very difficult decisions this school year, and I have no doubt you have our best interests in mind. And I want to thank our parents and guardians out there who we know are being supportive under some very difficult circumstances. I'm not a medical professional, and I'm just here to advocate. I believe I'm here to advocate for students. And local parentis would say that in place of the parent or acting as the parent, that I not only have 3 kids, but I have 705 middle school students as of today that I consider my own. And I don't have, like I said, I'm not qualified to speak as a medical, but as an educator, I just want to express some things that I'm seeing going on, that why I believe the virus to be concerned, we need to continue to keep our students safe. I do think there's also a threat of academic loss, social, emotional, mental states. I'm seeing students who literally, have seen them go out in tears, and I don't know if it's because they want to be in school that bad, because they're going home maybe to some tough circumstances, or maybe they're just really going to miss their principal. I don't know. But I know that we are doing our best, like I said, to balance this. But I'm just speaking open and honestly and saying my fear is moving forward by the current guidelines that we're playing, which I know we're operating under those. I'm afraid that cannot coexist with in-person instruction, or at least sustain it. And that worries me. And I only see our 2 options as trying to figure out a way that the quarantine guidelines somewhat change, or we reduce the amount of contact tracing, the amount of radius that we're currently operating under. And so while I don't have all the answers, I do think, and while there's a lot of division on what the answers may be, I think the majority of us would all come to the agreement that the vast majority of our students benefit when they are in school. And so I'm just basically advocating that we continue to recognize that not only is virus is a threat, but also the academic, the social and emotional well-being of our students is also at risk. I appreciate you all hearing me tonight, and I appreciate what you're all doing as a board and a central office during these difficult times. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in here that would actually like to speak? All right. One thing we need to make sure we follow guidelines on is also need a vote to approve the consent agenda. So does anybody have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Chris Franklin makes a motion. Anybody have a second?
Second.
Ms. Overberg seconds. And then as an individual, Ms. Overberg, you vote
Yes.
to approve? Aye. Ms. Franklin?
Yay.
IA. And then Mr. Roundtree.
Aye.
That's 4-0. Motion for the consent agenda passes. At this time, if no one has anybody else, I will also ask to have a motion to close the meeting.
Aren't we having discussion?
Yeah, we have a discussion item. That's what Christy was asking for.
Oh, okay.
Amended the agenda.
Sorry about that. All right, so discussion item. Ms. Franklin.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for the input from both parties tonight. I know that at our last meeting, so there was some frustration with regards to not allowing public input. So I wanted to make sure that we gave that opportunity tonight. Encourage everybody to come to our meetings and definitely put your input in. We have received a lot of correspondence from emails to phone calls to, those who came to the last meeting. What I will say is that I left that meeting pretty concerned and frustrated as to where our community had gone in their display of behavior that night. Although we may disagree and have a discussion up here, we all actually work really well together, and under no circumstances would I want anyone up here to be disrespected, myself or anybody else, the way that we were in that meeting. And so with regards to our continued discussions regarding our opening plan, safety plan, the decisions that we have to basically make on a daily basis, I think it's going to take a lot of patience and just being open-minded, and we're going to have to make decisions day to day and hopefully continue to get guidance and get information. And so we want that information to be come to us, and we want it to be in a respectful manner. And so I appreciate the information that was brought to us tonight. We all hear different things, and we take all that in for our own kind of guidance. I'm looking forward to getting the kids back in school after Labor Day. I think it's been a good break and a needed break just to kind of get reset. Our staff is, obviously overwhelmed with the amount of quarantines that we have. And one thing that I will say that I wanted to specifically state tonight about my concern is that it is very tough for a school board at a local level district level to make decisions and mandate things when state officials and county officials are not. And so it falls hard on our shoulders, and we all take those decisions very seriously. And so those decisions are not easy. We're trying to do what we feel is best and what we feel that our stakeholders and our parents and our staff are needing at this time. And so that's where it is right now. It's a fluid situation that we will continue to gather as much information from every single person that's in our buildings, that's in our community, that is a medical professional in our community that we can rely upon, and those entities that are government entities that make recommendations and protocols. So just going forward, that's just where I want everybody to know that we're at. It's a continued process.
Rachel, do you have any discussions?
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of clear up a few things here. In regards to our policy, the regular meetings and public meetings, it's stated in our policy that we will accept public input. Last Friday was an emergency meeting, and that's not in our policy to have public input. So just know that we were following policy on that. Also, I'd just like to, kind of as a reminder, mention that once the buildings do reopen, and while we are operating under Tier 1, when one student is masked and another is not masked, then both students have to be quarantined. So keep that in mind, and also keep in mind under Tier 1 that the perimeter is 6 feet, since all are not masked. If we do end up in Tier 2, where all students are masked, then the parameter for quarantining would go down to less than 3 feet. I would also mention that 700,000 pediatricians with the AAP have recommended masking, and our own Dr. Yezel also recommends masking. That's all I have.
Mr. Roundtree?
No, I wish I could have been with you guys tonight, but unfortunately, due to injury, that's not possible. But I appreciate you getting me dialed in so I can be a part of the meeting.
You're very welcome. I have a lot of respect for everybody here on the board, and everybody knows that, and have a lot of respect for our teachers, our principals, Dr. Briggs, our superintendent. And just as Ms. Barlow presented tonight, there's a vast information, just what Ms. Overberg just told us. There's a lot of information that we have to go through, as Ms. Franklin also stated, following charter guidelines. We try to do everything legally too as well as a school corporation. And I just, thank everybody, and, we try to do the best for our students, and not just that, for the constituents, our tax base, parents, family and friends, our students, my kids as well. Okay.
And I'll add to that too. Prior to our last meeting, before we had actually came into this meeting, we had probably had 3 meetings that week that lasted, 2 to 3, 4 hours each. And so I feel like we went into that meeting with every possible plan looked at and discussed, with a lot of information provided. And from what I feel we were told was that quarantining is law. That's what my understanding of it was, what was presented to us by our legal team. And when we had the discussions with regards to that, that's the information that we were provided. And I know you presented some information tonight that maybe calls that into question, or maybe needs a second look. But that is something that, I want the community to know, is that we did explore, what those statutes and those laws meant. And the advisement that I felt like I was given was that it is law. And when you ask people to look at law and possibly, I don't want to say break the law, but, go against a statute or a law, that's serious. And that's something that's, hard to ask other people to do. I mean, my individual position on it may be different than somebody else that feels differently. But I think that's something we can definitely continue to consult our legal team about, and maybe get more further clarification on. just to see what our options are. I'm not saying that that would be something that the board would adopt or not, but I mean, I think any starting point is you have to have the correct information to be able to make any decisions. And so I think you're right. If 53 other districts are doing it, maybe it's something that we need to explore a little bit further and get some more clarity on.
One other piece of information I meant to mention earlier is in regards to the quarantining. We are seeing positive cases come out of those that are quarantined. So I think that's an important statistical factor to keep in mind.
Anybody else have any board member comments? Okay, at this time, I'd ask for someone to make a motion for adjournment.
I make the motion.
Ms. Overberg makes the motion.
I'll second.
Chrissy seconds. Mr. Roundtree, your vote.
Aye.
Ms. Overberg,
Aye.
Ms. Franklin,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Thank you guys, and thank you for everybody showing up tonight. Have a great night.
Thanks, Chris.